Okay, we're going to try and actually reset the mic. So we'll see if we can connect. Let me know if you can hear me now. Can you hear me at all? Oh, yes. Okay, I see sound is back. Yay. Okay, great. All right. Now, guys, honestly, lives. Okay, so Shahid is like, yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much, guys. Well, you can tell I'm not lying when I say like technology is not my best friend. And I do thank God that my fiance has some skill sets that I don't have. So it's really great to see you all today. I hope you've actually enjoyed watching part 2 of the Ready to Love reunion, because that's what we're going to be breaking down today. So just comment below who you think. Oh, is the video? Someone said the video lag. Okay, tell me if the video is lagging. If it is, just drop a comment below and we could probably adjust it. Let me know. Hopefully the sound and the video quality is all right, but do let me know. So today, guys, we were thinking to have a look at Denise, also have a look at Kalfani, and also have a look at Adriana, Rashid, and of course, Naya, Chris. And I wanted to just touch on Jay and Joy, because I know that we had kind of left at last week thinking, are they together? Are they not? So we're going to recap them. Who would you like me to start with, guys? Drop a comment in the comment box and let me know. I was thinking to start with Naya and Chris, but I'm going to leave it over to you lot. So just post a comment below. Let me know where you're actually joining this live stream from. Are you in London? Are you in the UK? Are you in the US? Where are you? Just post a comment below. Someone said Kalfani. Oh, shall we go there? Lord, it's Kalfani. What a hot. Someone said Adriana. Okay. Okay. Let's go. Okay, who was first? Natasha said Kalfani, and we're going to join the two of them. So let's start with them. Someone else said Kalfani. Oh, guys, is Kalfani, is King K still your favorite? That guy has just, he's done a lot. He's done a lot this week. All right, let's start with, I was going to start with these two, but let's change and let's start with someone else. Okay, let me see. Let's see who we've got. So let's go to Adriana and Kalfani. This is going to definitely be an interesting one, but we're going to have fun. All right. So if you're just joining us, welcome. My name's Sherna Squire. I literally on this channel talk all about healthy relationships. We look at different shows and we look for teachable moments, things we can learn for ourselves in developing healthier relationships. And of course, we are always striving to be better. So this is just not here to bash anyone. This is here to educate and teach ourselves what to do and what not to do. So I think Kalfani is a great one to start with. Oh, someone else said the video is lagging. I think, do you know what, guys? I'll tell you what happened. Let me just talk to you lot a minute. My fiance is wonderful. But last week we did this filming in low, I don't know what it's called. I think it's called like low stand or some type of level of streaming. He went, no, babe, go for high definition today. And I was like, look, I like to keep things pretty normal, you know, do the same thing like we did last week. So let's all blame him for the lagging. Someone said, yes, it's going in and out. All right, he's just come back in the room. So he's actually going to now try and change it to low definition. And last week, that's what we had it on and it seemed to work. So let's try and see if we can actually just change it back to low definition. So yeah, another teachable moment. Don't try and switch things up. Just keep it as it is. So whilst he's just doing that, hopefully you can still hear me. And I'm just going to begin our little breakdown show on Kalfani and Adriana. Okay, so what did we see Kalfani do this week? This week we saw, hopefully guys, it's gone down to low definition. So do tell me if it's lagging or it's going in and out. And we'll see if we can do anything to adjust it. How is it now, guys? Is it a little? Okay, there we go. Hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully the lagging has finished and now we can kick off the show. Okay, so it says you are frozen. We're not hearing anything now. Okay, hopefully, guys, the lagging is finished and the audio is back. I hope. All right. Regina Smalls. Yeah, I lost you now. Okay. All right. Just tell me if you can hear me and tell me if it's still going in and out. We can hear now. Thank you, Crystal G. Cool. Let's begin. All right. So with Kalfani, guys, Kalfani's a really naughty guy. I don't know how any of you feel about Kalfani, but me personally, I was literally like, what in the green earth happened here? And then I decided, you know what, let's actually look back at Kalfani's journey with this show. And actually, Kalfani, I feel like he played us all. He didn't just play Adriana, he literally took us all on the merry-go-round. And now we see that actually he's built this connection with an ex who's returned. Now, Crystal G says, I never liked him. He lacked substance all season. Thank you, Crystal G. Do guys continue to post your comments and I'll definitely try and read as many of them out. Yeah, lots of people are not fans of Kalfani. Now, let's begin there because I think Kalfani this week just really showed who he is. And he actually said on the show, he said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. This is his own quote that he used. And I was like, you know what? Yes, you're correct, Kalfani. And we see who you are and we believe you. This guy was able, because I basically, let me skip back. Himself and Adriana, I think sometimes people don't consider themselves emotionally unavailable. But their pattern and their way of actually being on the show almost made me think of people who might be actually a little bit emotionally unavailable, because it's quite a common pattern that's found with people who are like this, where they generally present very well. And these two, Kalfani, as we see here, and we see Adriana, they're lookers, all right? They're good looking. They tend to have a lot of appeal from others. And what can happen with people, and it's funny because emotionally unavailable doesn't always present in the same way, but people who can be quite emotionally unavailable, they are very good at sometimes building those connections, and those connections with people can be really quick, really intense. It's almost a bit like it feels like the love bombing. Someone said can't hear. I hope you can hear. It can almost be like feeling like you're being love bombed. It's such an instant, explosive rush of emotions. And I noticed this pattern with these two. Kalfani instantly gravitated to, what's her name? Adriana. Not Adriana, Denise. And then we saw that also Adriana had that kind of connection again with Rashid. And it was this kind of like very instant connection, playfulness. There was an intensity, there was a focus on this person. And then we saw Adriana early part of the season saying, you know, Rashid's my man. We saw Denise pretty much calling Kalfani as her man. And Kalfani was pretty much saying Denise is, you know, the one he's focused on. It was a very fast, intense move. Now, this is a common pattern, guys, that is often witnessed with people whereby they can build these connections, but as soon as the other person who they are attracted to or they are kind of desiring starts to also pick up on that vibe and starts to show interest and then suddenly locks in on them, that's where we see the pullback. that's where we see almost this kind of sudden distancing, hesitation, I'm not sure, all of this sudden change of play. And this happened with Kalfani and Adriana with their first picks. So Kalfani did it perfectly with Denise, and Adriana did it perfectly with Rashid. And what you then had is these two people, poor Rashid and poor Denise. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Denise is any saint, and we're going to get onto Denise tonight. But what you see play out is this exact same pattern where Denise is in a whirlwind. She's had the romance that she's been desiring for years and years and years and years and years. Suddenly she's had this rush of interest, focus, everything. And suddenly this guy pulls back, is constantly finding fault. And we know Denise has her own ish. Like, we're not here on this channel to smooth over anything that we've witnessed. But I'm just highlighting a pattern. And when you see these patterns, and it's because Kalfani came and he said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And I was like, yeah, you're right, bro. But I seen your pattern. And what we saw is Denise was in this whirlwind, caught up, fully focused, fully thought, the commitment's there, we're ready to go home together. And there was this immediate pullback. Suddenly, Adriana's got all his attention, all his focus. And this happened with Adriana and Rashid. Adriana did the same thing. Wow. Oh my God, I've got a second chance with Rashid. You know, she went back out there, making Rashid feel like, yes, there's an opportunity, locking in on Rashid very early. Rashid's my man, claimed him. You know, it was this intense, you know, vibe between them. And this is a pattern, guys, that happens. And as soon as that person who they've pursued or they're interested in fully locks in on them, shows them that kind of commitment or interest, and pretty much lets them know, you are my number one, you're my only focus now, the pullback happens. And they perfectly, both of them did this. And I've done a video on my channel, the test versus the distraction. You can definitely go on my channel and find loads of videos talking about how these games are sometimes played, but actually this can be indicators of people who are quite emotionally unavailable. And they're often the people who don't on the surface look like they've got any of those, you know, emotional unavailable signs. They look and present very well. They actually attract sometimes quite high value, high quality, you know, partners, but they still end up doing these patterns of behavior. And this is what we saw this week, I feel, with Kalfani and Adriana. And what then happened is, it's quite common to have two people who are emotionally unavailable actually attracted to one another. And most people think, well, no, I'm not emotionally unavailable. But actually, emotionally available people generally aren't attracted to emotionally unavailable people. It is just not a fit. But it takes us sometimes so long to recognize that us ourselves might actually have some of that emotional unavailability within ourselves. And I really like that Adriana this week, actually at the end of the show, was saying, do you know, I've noticed there's a pattern happening with me. I noticed that I always end up in this position. And unfortunately, it did look like it played out whereby not only had she done this to Rashid, but now Kalfani had managed to do this to her. And this is just the messy, destructive pattern that comes from emotionally unavailable people. Like, it really is quite detrimental as that kind of pattern plays out, and people get hurt. Like, it really is. So I was really pleased that she actually kind of got to that headspace where she said, you know what, I probably need to go away and think or reflect or go and see someone who can help you make sense of this pattern, because many of us are in it, and that pull away is awful. And what Adriana, in my opinion, done, and I don't know if anyone else caught it, but Adriana started talking about she said to Rashid, no, you pulled away. And because you pulled away and didn't fight for me, I basically turned my interest to Kalfani, which in my opinion is not true. I do not believe that that is the case. She started removing her interest from Rashid a lot earlier. And it's a common thing to kind of very subtly blame the other person as opposed to taking accountability. And this is a common pattern. And she kind of made out like, no, Rashid, you pulled away, therefore I had to kind of turn my interest to Kalfani, which is not the case. And I do feel like Rashid had a much more emotionally available, he was definitely much more of an emotionally available person, in my opinion. He was able to recognize the signs and maybe at some point decide, you know, I need to take a step back because I can see that this person is obviously more interested in someone else, which is pretty common for someone who's got a bit more emotional availability and awareness. You know, if you don't tend to have that, you tend to end up clinging and trying to go for this person even more and more and more. And that's where you can end up again in that horrible pattern and cycle. So I just wanted to touch on that. I personally, someone said she was gaslighting. Yeah, Rashid was all in. And I think what we saw here with Kalfani and Adriana was let's focus on Kalfani. For some reason, the mic stay unplugged. I do not know why the mic keeps unplugging. Went off again. Okay, I'll try and carry on without the mic going. Anyway, so in my opinion, Kalfani ended up in a situation whereby he really, in my opinion, did not care that much about Adriana. And he said like he's a very honest and genuine guy. But in my opinion, there is no way that you could have had deep, solid feelings about someone, and one day after the show, because you receive a eviction notice, no, it wasn't an eviction notice, because you receive a note on your door from an ex, you are willing to jump out of one situation into something else with someone else. And that to me is another sign of how emotionally unavailable people present. They are so willing to suck that person in, which happened now with Adriana. So it happened already with Denise. We see that it happened with Adriana. He gave her that complete intensity. This lady described it as almost a whirlwind high school romance. And these, again, guys, are signs when you need to be cautious, because when you actually have those kind of high intensity, early burning sort of connections with someone where it's so explosive, it's so exciting, you miss things. And it's almost, I always say slow and steady wins the race. And when it's almost that fast and that intense, you know that there is always a risk of this kind of, a fast start can also lead to a fast end. It can burn its fun bit very soon. And we saw how after that resort, it was all done. And I think Kalfani even ended when they first made that decision that they were both each other's pick. Kalfani even said, I don't know where this is going to go, but I hope you're somewhere by my side. Like, these are signs. I was literally rewatching it today and I was like, this guy actually gave all the cute clues that there was going to be a problem soon. Because when a guy finally gets you in that place where you and him have made that commitment to explore this connection and hopefully build a relationship, and he says, I don't know where this is going to go. Like, I get it. He was probably saying like, but it now makes sense. Like this, I personally do not feel like Kalfani genuinely had the connection that he describes having with Adriana. I don't think it was genuine. And I think for someone who met her father and also introduced his parents to this girl, it shows a level of, wow, this guy really did not have any care for this man's daughter or anything, because who would actually go as far as to meet this person's father, give that impression of wanting something with his child, to leave her on day one of leaving the resort? Unless you went back to her father and actually said, sir, I need to say sorry because I have actually misled, misguided, I have actually done something that is going to have caused your child some injury. I would have hurt her in some way. Like, have that respect of something. But this guy has no respect. Like, I might be wrong, but I literally was like, that is disgusting. And the fact that this guy did that on national TV, I was literally like, are these people being paid to just look like trash on TV? Like, it was really, I just thought this was poor. I was really, considering he has children, and I believe he has a daughter. I don't know if his second child is a girl. I was like, what example are you actually modeling to your child if you yourself as the parent on national TV are behaving in this way? And it really left me feeling like, wow, it was beyond disappointing. And I don't know how the internet will, if he'll get, I know Chef Shay said, he's going to get dragged for this and whatever. And I don't even think it will happen, but it's just really unfortunate to see how people literally go on these programs and actually really play out what we go through every day in this dating experience. It's a really good show to show how messy and complicated we are as humans. But it also really, I hope, serves as a red flag and a really good pointer to others that these are things you need to be aware of. And if you're entering relationships where it's always this kind of intense rush, full of this kind of giggly, excited emotions. And we all need a bit of passion and fire and, joy and fun in our relationships, especially when you're first meeting someone. But there should be a kind of gradual pacing and steadiness. And that often is where it has a bit more survivability. Let's say that, because this kind of rush, fast, intense, let's do it, hardly ever ends very well. So I do feel like Kafani was a big letdown in this season. And, I actually was looking at his pattern of behavior. And I really just hope that many women watching this will really take stock of the signs and things to really pay attention to in a guy. And this guy is ultra smooth. And unfortunately, we now see how sometimes that actual smooth, perfect exterior can just be the mask for a lot of poor emotional immaturity and emotional unavailability. And that guy, even if he's got with this new ex, I do not believe he has the real capacity at this stage to really take on any serious, mature, healthy relationship. Because for him to just jump ship to ship to ship, it's just it's worrying. So women, if you see Kalfani in the next few weeks, because we know it doesn't really take him long to jump ship, stay clear, because unless he's done the work on himself, he may come and really mess you up. So that's my thoughts on Kalfani. I really would encourage every woman to really pay attention to this show, because it has and not just women, because I know I've got men on here, but it has so many life lessons when it comes to relationships and insight into people that we all could learn from. And I really wanted to touch on emotionally unavailability today, because it's masked and it presents in so many different ways. On this season, we had Anthony, again, and another emotionally unavailable guy, but the presentation of it was so different. This time we've got Kalfani and I would say Adriana, who, again, they present differently, but I would say the same issue is definitely running, or there's some thread of this same issue going on. So let's have a look. I was going to talk about Adriana in a little bit more detail. I personally felt like there was a level of immaturity to Adriana. And when Rashid was actually having that conversation with Tommy and talking about, you know, just giving her credit, this woman was kin and teeth with the guy who just broke your heart. Or maybe her heart isn't broken. And this again is just another sign of just how I don't know about this connection between these two. But if you as a woman, I was really trying to make sense of this, but as a woman, if Kalfani had just done what he done to you, I was really shocked by her presentation, because not that I expected her to come on TV and be angry, but it was just like there was still this longing I felt for him from her. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, it was just way too. Kalfani just came off with, you know, not much. He didn't get held to account. I felt like she was all nice towards him, and it was just too easy. And I was really like, Adriana, are you not upset by this? Like, I was more upset for her than I saw her be upset. And I'm sure they've edited parts, and I'm sure she's probably been upset behind the scenes, and this is national TV. But I just felt like there was, after the show ended, you saw this connection between them, or this conversation between them in the back, and she's hugging him and he's trying to reassure her that he was about her. And I was like, what in the world is going on? So for me, guys, I was really disappointed. Thank you. Someone said watch Little Black Book to know why she did what she did. Yeah, thank you. It honestly is a little bit of a disappointment, those two, personally. I just felt like, yeah, go and get some help, work on identifying these patterns that you notice when it comes to your relationships, and go and do the work with a therapist or someone who can support you to really understand. Because sometimes, guys, when we see those patterns in our adult relationships, it often does stem from something earlier in your childhood, sometimes. And it's really worthwhile trying to explore why you keep ending up in these same type of patterns. So that's really important. Let me have a look in the comments. So when Natasha said, nope, she's probably hooking up with him on the side. I hope not. Let's see. Kalfani said on a live that the girl that left him the note had gone to sort out family problems. My question is, why did she keep in touch? Okay. Yeah. Kalfani's just been on TV. There's going to be a lot of interest from a lot of exes. And guys, I hope we're all adults on this show. We know that oftentimes exes always pop back up at some point if, you know, things are still in those earlier stages sometimes, and even sometimes down the line. And a show like this will definitely attract a lot of attention for Kalfani, and I'm sure for all of these participants. So, you know, let's see how many other exes pop up for Kalfani and how many he's really going to be dropping every few weeks, because this is ridiculous. So, yeah, what is one way to stop attracting broken women? Oh, okay. Well, you definitely, you know, I always say you attract often what you are, and not to say you are broken, but one of the things is, as we are all on our journey of healing, of working on ourselves, of really trying to become better versions of ourselves daily, you will start to actually smell or sense people who maybe are quite toxic, or maybe present quite emotionally immature, or maybe actually have a lot more going on for themselves, maybe on a trauma level or other things. So what tends to happen, I find, is the more work you actually are doing on yourself, you start to actually navigate and pick partners who reflect what it is you are trying to become or already are. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope that answers your question. So I always say, and this is why as a coach, my work is centered around healthy relationships. And I think mainly because there are a lot of skills that we really haven't always sharpened and developed so that we can have healthy relationships. And sometimes we ourselves haven't always done the work on ourselves to be in that space, to enjoy and partake in a healthy relationship. So it's really important sometimes to really focus on self, because that's what we can control, and not so much think about the other person, because that's for them. That's their responsibility, and that's what they only can control. So stay focused on you and stay working on bettering you, and you will actually be able to start attracting and choosing people that are much more better suited to you. So who shall we talk about next? I actually wanted to talk about, let us see, who else shall we do? I was going to go to Denise because I was like, oh Lord, shall we go there? But let me just touch on, I had something that I wanted to show. Yes, you can't always choose. Yes, that's correct. J Dill, thank you very much. All right, so guys, I'm going to actually talk about manipulative people. All right, because I know, guys, we all saw this lady. Let me find her picture. It's always good so we know who we're focusing on. I know we all saw this lady, and this lady is, let me bring it up. This lady is interesting. I don't know about how you all feel about her, but she is definitely an interesting lady. Naya is a character that, in all fairness, she could be, we could talk about her for days, all right? But let's go to Naya, because I want to talk about manipulation today as well. And one of the things that I think is really important, I don't often talk about it on my channel all the time, but I do think it is worthwhile paying attention to it, because what I witnessed with Naya and what I also witnessed with Kalfani is quite a very subtle, for Kalfani anyway, manipulative nature. Whereas with Naya, it presented very, very blatantly after we saw what she did to Chris. So let me just see if I can actually swap around this screen and successfully bring up a little presentation that I wanted to show you about a word, because this really featured heavily for me. And I'm going to try and actually do this without the need for my fiance. Let me see if I can actually maneuver this myself. All right. So when I was watching this, I was actually like, why do women reject the safe and secure guy? Like, this really popped up in my mind for me. And I was like, why does this always seem to happen? And I've got a few ideas why I think some, and this is not applicable to all women. This is not only applicable to women either. This is also applicable to men. But I did kind of have that question. And I don't know if any of you thought the same, but I thought today it would be worthwhile talking about it. And often sometimes, because I'm thinking about Rashid in mind, but I'm going to come to Naya. Often sometimes as women, it has been said that he's too safe, it's too boring, he's too reliable, or it just feels too, safe, or there's no excitement, it's quite predictable. All these words tend to come up, all right? And these are actual key words that you probably want to have some of these elements when it comes to a healthy relationship. But many people see these things often at the dating stage as kind of unattractive or boring qualities, let's say. And that can also, again, be quite indicative of who that individual is. When you're talking to someone, and if they are naming and listing all these qualities of someone or these attributes to someone's behavior as actually not great attributes, that's another thing that you probably want to pay attention to, because for anyone who does have a secure and more healthy relationship, you definitely want to feel like there's the person you're loving and being with is consistent and reliable. You definitely want to feel like they are committed to you. So these are actually great attributes that you should actually be paying attention to, but they're often the things that come up as reasons why sometimes women, and some, this is not applicable to all, tend to kind of let go of a good guy. All right. And we're going to use Rashid as the good guy today, guys. Now, I really wanted to touch on the wild card and the exciting guy, because that is the kind of Kalfani. Kalfani is kind of the wild card. He's the guy who, I think even Adriana was like, he just makes me feel like I'm in high school. I just get so excited, and all of that kind of, just really excitable energy constantly. And everyone who's been in a relationship, after some time, you can't stay in that excited mode day in, day out. It just doesn't, it's just not like that. All right. And it's not a bad thing, but it's just the reality. But the wild card or the exciting guy, he's often quite hyper masculine. And we saw with Kalfani, God, those muscles, the body, everything. This person tends to ooze testosterone. They're quite confident. They're quite bold. They have quite a high sex appeal. All right. And they've got quite a presence when they're in the room. Even if they're not talking, their presence is felt. All right. They often have quite a fun, adventurous side to them. And things tend to feel quite intense and a rushing sensation quite early. Okay. So this is how chemistry between the woman and the guy who's normally like this is quite intense, is quite full on. And people often end up feeling like, whoa, I've never had a love like this. When actually they've just very quickly attached to someone as opposed to falling in love with someone. All right. But this is what you tend to see. Now, what also can happen is that we already know, guys, as adults who've probably been dating for a while, that there are some common risks that come with the Mr. Wildcard, the Mr. Exciting. And the first is often that they don't always make the best long-term partners. They often break hearts. They often are a little bit commitment phobe. Like they are not that keen on really locking in and committing and even sometimes marrying. They can be very hesitant. They tend to also be emotionally unavailable. And there also is this thing about Machiavellianism and narcissism. And today I'm going to touch on Machiavellianism. All right. Now, if you've never heard of this simply means, that it's not a mental health condition. It's just more of a personality trait. And it's really just what is used to describe a manipulative individual. All right. This is someone who tends to deceive others or trick others into achieving their goal. All right. So this tends to be the kind of therapeutic psychological term for someone who's very manipulative or deceptive or even tricks others. All right. So I just wanted to touch on this because I really felt like in this show, Naya and Kalfani really demonstrated some of this it really brought to my mind this exact thing, because Naya did this in some ways with Chris. And what we saw is that actually Naya instantly, again, another example, guys, of how two people, Chris and Naya, they had this instant connection and it was like intense. They locked in on one another. Well, Chris locked in on her. And it was like, I'm you, you're me, you get me. It was just so intense. And it's not to say people don't have success when they suddenly sometimes have these fast connections. But what I do want to highlight is that you need to pay attention that sometimes things need to be a bit more gradual. It can't, if you are always in this pattern of suddenly, quickly developing these intense love or close connections with people, and it never seems to go all the way to the end. It always seems to fizzle out. You want to kind of be paying attention to that. And with Chris, what he said this week, they showed a bit of a clip of him earlier earlier part of the season, he said, I am ready to have a baby. He talked about his biological clock and being ready to have a baby. And I didn't know this. I don't know if anyone else knew this, but he did. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Because we knew about Naya, and Naya, when we met her, was talked about, I'm ready to have a baby. So it was the first time I saw Chris's clip, and I was like, look at that. The two who are desperate pretty much to have a child locked in and found each other. And again, guys, it's so interesting as we piece this together because it was instantaneous. They obviously both shared a common goal and vision and, you know, plan for both of them wanting to become parents. And they didn't really they didn't know each other. Like, they got together pretty much day one, but it was so intense, so fast. And then one small thing tripped it up. And instantly, this lady denounced, Chris. Like, it was, and if you've not seen this season, you can go back on my channel and I've got a video of the worst breakup. You can check out this video. It will show you literally how this all occurred. And it was painful to watch. But what it did highlight again is how sometimes people like Naya can be quite manipulative. And I'm not saying that she is definitely this, but it came across as she was like, I don't really care about Chris. I didn't care about Edwin or Chris. She made that clear. But what she did is she highlighted that I will say and do anything to achieve my goal. And this is why I wanted to bring up Machiavellianism, because this is how quite manipulative and highly manipulative people can absolutely run riot over your heart. And that's why you can't just go into kind of these relationships or dating experiences so blindly and so intensely. Because actually, if you gradually checked this woman, she might not have been interested in someone like Chris if he was able to really be actually paying attention to this woman. But he was so swept up in her presence and her energy, Lord knows how. But he literally was blindsided by how he got sidelined and then pretty much just abandoned, instantaneously because of a comment and what he expressed about finances. Now, I'm not against Naya for having her views on finances and the mortgage and how it's paid. That's fine. But when you see the heart of someone, when you see the nature of someone who can discard someone that quickly and with that kind of arrogance, you're not dealing with someone who is, got that empathetic nature where they're caring about the person they've built some connection with. No. And Machiavellianism came to my mind because this is how sometimes people can really manipulate or deceive or even trick others because of their overall goal. And this overall goal for her was about finding the best fit for obviously a father. And I know she wants to have a child, but finding the best regardless of who gets trodden on, who gets anything. And you do need to pay attention to this. And I'm also raising this for Kalfani because Kalfani, in a very subtle way, was quite manipulative because he literally caused Adriana, and he didn't do this. Adriana picked Kalfani, okay? But it was quite manipulative in how he was able to pretty much defraud. I mean, I'm using some strong words, but guys, this was not okay. Like, this is not okay. We can't condone this sort of behavior as adult and acceptable. This is not okay. Kalfani literally spoke to this lady's father, introduced this lady to his mum and dad, and in one day was able to go and pick another woman. I'm like, how is there an element of manipulation occurring, or is this just okay? It was like I'm going to make sure, because he got the prize. It was like, think of a game and this person really wants to win. And the goal and I've done a video on Kalfani and Adriana, and it's called Winner's Mindset. So do go on my channel and check it out. And I touched on this, that these two individuals, they were very focused. And Kalfani in particular said, I never think of coming second. I always keep my mind as, on the prize and going for first place. And I just was like, was this all a game? Was there actually more of a game element of winning and being the successful couple at the end, more than actually building a real genuine connection with people? And that's how I was left. I mean, I'm not even the lady in Adriana's position, but I'm not surprised Adriana had to ask some questions, because this is how I was left. Like, was this more about you winning and achieving the goal of being the prize guy, that King K, more than actually really about connecting with a woman on here genuinely? And that's why I say, like, there's a subtle element of manipulation here, because it's like you really almost brought this girl to believe that there was a genuine connection, and in one day it's all gone. This is disgusting. So I'm just having my rant, guys, because I Machiavellianism is real. Sometimes psychologists will say high Mac, and high Mac just means this is a highly manipulative individual. They are people who, have these traits, and it does present in different ways. And I'm not saying that this is exactly what people have, but I'm raising our awareness, because it is important to recognize when we see this kind of behavior in people and stay clear from that. If that is not, because for me, I got the vibe like Adriana was considering still, being friends with this guy. And I'm like, you need to pay. This is, yeah. And someone said they held Denise accountable. Yeah, I don't know what other channels and content creators are saying. I haven't had a chance yet to look and see, but I'm holding Kalfani accountable on this channel, because, I don't take those things lightly. And as a man raising daughters, or if he has one daughter and a son, but he's got two children, you need to make sure that, you step up and do the right thing, so your children don't see that, this is acceptable. This is unacceptable. So, yeah. All right. I'm going to move on, because Lord knows I'll make this whole show about Kalfani and his foolishness. So, guys, let's see. I'm going to go to the comment section. Let us see what is being said. Yep. I feel like no one was holding her to the fire. Okay, let me see if I can bring some of these up. Oh, Mimi, I'm with you, girl. Rashid will find the woman who deserves his love. He deserves better. Absolutely. Rashid hit it on the nail. He said, look, different ages, different stages. In all fairness, I do feel like Adriana has there's an element of a young, there's a bit of maturing emotionally to do, because even when she was on the couch and Rashid was talking to Tommy, she's held up in another conversation with the same guy who has just dropped her for another girl. And it just showed a lack of, respect. But also, even when Tommy pulled her up on it, she was like, oh, sorry. I was just like, it's just not grown. It didn't feel grown. I just was like, Lord, where they find them? I hope they are getting paid a hell of a lot of money for this show, because Lord, reputation and all. I was like, geez, this is intense. So, yeah, I think there's a bit of maturing to do, but I respect her for saying, look, I'm going to go away and look at this pattern, because I seem to still end up in the same place. So I respect her for that. All right, who shall we talk about? I didn't get to touch on Chris, but I think we all know Chris. We're so lucky, and we're so glad that you got a lucky escape. Naya and that situation, I don't think it would have served you any good. We saw that Naya has she she's intense. She's a different, as Tommy said, she's other. She's different, and that is not the right fit for Chris. Let me know, guys, who was your favorite male this season? Were you more keen on Chris? Were you more keen on Rashid? Who did you lot actually like? I actually think Chris he's got a decent heart. I do think there's some work to be done. Naya came across as quite patronizing. She was very much like, there was a sarcastic attitude that she had, always kind of, I don't know, it was really, oh God, the energy. Guys, I pick up on vibes, I pick up on energy. So for me, I was just like, oh, Chris, you really escaped with your life. So yeah, let's go on to Denise. Let's do Denise, guys. All right, who is Team Denise? If you're a Team Denise, drop a number 1 in the comments for Denise. Let's see who's a fan, who's still a fan, who's still holding on for Denise. Is anyone Team Denise? Lord, nobody dropped a 1. Okay, so let's go to Denise and see what we can do. All right, so I like Denise. I think Denise is a really great example of so many of us who have probably gone through different life events that have absolutely left their markings on us. And those sometimes we call traumas, those sometimes we just call life experience. And not only has she gone through this, she showed up on this show. And I really believe she showed up as herself. And that takes guts, to really just come and be all that you are. And yes, I know she's caught a lot of flack. I definitely know people have suggested maybe this is a time for her to think of going to therapy and just having that space to think about some things. All of that is good. All right. I'm all for it. I did want to touch on the fact that Denise mentioned that Kalfani picked Adriana because she left. Did anyone catch that statement? Because I was like, Lord, I don't know. Well, I honestly don't know, guys. Did anyone else catch this? I was like, no, Denise. He picked Adriana before you left. And it's so hard sometimes when, you have to accept that you've not been chosen. It's so hard sometimes when we might have an emotional wound around abandonment or around loss or separation or all these different things. And she may not have any of these, but I'm just talking about it for us to learn from. It's so hard when you have any of those kind of emotional wounds and it feels like you've lost the thing that almost in one way brought you that sense of potential love and a relationship and all those other things you wanted. And I think for Denise, she really came here seeking love, seeking a relationship, seeking a connection with someone. And maybe it wasn't love, but she came here with the intention to find someone. I genuinely did walk away feeling like that. And you can see that it has really been too difficult for her to actually accept that Kalfani did not pick her. And to even on the last episode of this season say that you only picked her because I left. I was like, wow. It's just telling of how hard it is sometimes for us guys to hear truth and to deal with the reality. And that is important because sometimes we get caught up in the fantasy of what we want, the ideal of someone, but when the truth and the reality of that situation don't align, we sometimes see this sort of presentation in people where they just can't accept the truth. They'll tell themselves anything but the truth. And that for me it was hard to see that. I just was like, oh my God, please, Denise, just accept that much. But Denise did do some other things. Let's talk about it. She said it was never hard for her to understand this process and, accept that others, it's a dating show and you have to date others. And she never got jealous of Kalfani and all these things. And again, it's just indicative of when you see that someone is unable to really take on board any of the information or accept anything that's being said, it's quite telling that they've got their own stuff going on. And that's why on my show, I'm not here to tear down and destroy people or speak bad of anyone. But it is just another sign that sometimes we do need to go. And even if it starts with ourselves and just reflecting on everything that's going on for us, that's a good place to start. If you've got a friend who you can then do that with, and that friend's someone who you trust to kind of tell you some truths, even better. If you get to the stage where you think, you know what, I might want to move into a therapeutic space where I can do this with someone else who might help me understand some of my past, even better. All right. So Denise, I would say definitely has shown us that defensiveness never works. Not being able to take on board constructive feedback at times. She has at some times, but not always. That's never that helpful. We all need to be able to do that. And I think even Kalfani's example of telling her about, can you see everything on your back right now? None of us can. So sometimes an outside perspective is useful. I thought that was actually the best thing he said all night. Other than that, Kalfani, you need to go and take a leaf out your own book and your advice and go and work out why you do what you do, because it is alarming what I saw from Kalfani today. And I really hope other men will also kind of just call this out, because that was just completely unacceptable in my books. Okay, so Denise, what else did we want to say? I think Denise did something really nice, guys. She did at the very end say, listen, I get my guard up immediately when I feel like I'm being attacked. And I tried to actually write it down so I don't misquote her, but she did say, I do have my guard up. And if I see someone trying to set me up, and that again, guys, it's like, pay attention to language, because when someone is using certain words and the situation that we're in doesn't quite fit it, it's often telling of maybe other things they might have already gone through, experienced. And as soon as they feel or sense themselves under some sort of attack, or their mind goes to that place. And for her to feel like she felt someone was trying to set her up, and she acknowledged that she has her guard up. I felt that was good, because it's probably the best we were going to get from her on that day, in all fairness. And it was good that she recognized that she does have her guard up. And for any of us to really build the kind of healthy relationships that we all say we want, it does require you to have to let that guard down gradually. It does require you to actually be a bit more emotionally available and vulnerable. So that was also something that I do hope she doesn't just say, but goes and thinks about how she can start to trust others and find someone who actually deserves her to let her guard down. Because ladies, the Bible says guard your heart, and it doesn't just say it for the ladies. So men do the same. We do need to be mindful. And these intense love bombing situations that we saw with Naya and Chris, or even that we saw going on with Kalfani, Denise, Kalfani, Adriana, these are the things that you probably want to be thinking, pause and check, just take your time on it. All right. Let me head over to the comments. You lovelies are always dropping some comments here. Yes, let's see. Jordan. Hey, Jordan. Oh, I agree, Sherna. I think Denise came on the show with the intent to find love, but she wasn't ready to love. There seemed to be a lot of hurt and brokenness from her past that she needed to heal from. Yeah, I would say definitely. Someone said, who is Sam? Someone said the awkward one. Okay. Sandra Robinson, sounds like your team, Denise. Okay, Denise kept it real all season. Yep, pretty much. Yes. Others feel that she needs counseling. I felt the rest of the cast made her feel like an outsider. Yes, honey. And you know what, in some ways, let's take even for Denise. I think Denise herself felt sometimes different, and maybe in some ways kind of maybe removed herself a little bit at times. Maybe she just found the whole process too much at times. I am interested to kind of really I'll probably have to check out some of the interviews that they're doing so that I can kind of get a bit more sense of some more of their backstory, because I'm quite intrigued about Adriana. Her dad came on the show and her dad is a therapist, okay? But I never really heard her talking much about her mum. And I didn't know what the story is, and I have no idea. So if any of you do know a bit more, but it is quite interesting because sometimes when we as women tend to not go for the safe and secure guy, you do also have to sometimes pay attention to the parenting, the upbringing, your attachment style. You also want to kind of be looking at, are there areas maybe where there was, maybe emotional distance sometimes in the parenting relationship between the parent and the child while she was growing up. Like, I'm not saying any of this even applies to Adriana, but just in general, these can be sometimes factors that contribute to sometimes why as adults we end up choosing people who are the wild card and not the safe and secure guy. Guys, we all, or ladies, we should all go for the pure, steady, reliable, consistent, committed, responsive, predictable. You should be looking for those things, because those are the qualities that really blossom into something of a beautiful, healthy relationship. Okay, let's see. Denise lost hope. Denise lost hope after Kalfani's situation and Anthony's rejection. Yeah, it can knock you sideways. It can really knock you sideways when you feel like this is the one. I don't know if anyone's ever felt like this guy or this woman is gonna be my wife or gonna be my husband. Like, and especially if you are someone who allows yourself to drift into that fantasy space and live there more. I'm not saying that Denise did this, but this is a common pattern. And if you are someone who has the ideal guy in mind, and then you suddenly maybe even have a flash of an experience with this guy, so maybe Kalfani was that tall, fine, dark, chocolate, muscular man, and she was like, Lord has just answered my prayers. And with Kalfani, he has a smooth tongue. He'll be talking like, spiritually, I'm just a spiritual kind of guy. Like, he just had a lot of words that will fandangle someone's mind and have you missing real red flags. So, ladies, let's just pay attention to these things, because we can't just get smoothed over with words. We need to be seeing action and consistency. And with Kalfani, unfortunately, he's dangerous. He's dangerous. If Kalfani is back on the dating market, I would advise women to be very careful. Okay, right. Let's see. Smooth operator. Yes, Jordan, I also agree. Okay, Natasha says, essentially, Denise made out Anthony and Kalfani were dead ends. Yeah, Anthony was definitely interesting. I've done some videos on Anthony because I have talked about, 40-year-old men who've got no real history of a solid experience of love and a relationship. It really is something to pay attention to. It's not to say that you can't be with them, but just you have to kind of be paying attention to and seeing if are they actually exploring what that blockage has been. Because with Anthony, I think it was more than just football. I can't really deep down feel like football just kept him from this. The level of resistance was too different for me. But yes, let's have a look. All right. Okay, fine. So let me touch on Jay and Joy, because Jay and Joy, we all had a love for Joy. I think Joy is a lady that many ladies have resonated with. And of course, the men love a bit of Joy. But what I saw happening with Jay and Joy when they said, no, we're not together. And guys, we were all right. Last week, we predicted that they are not together. The whole body language was like a no-go. But what I saw was Jay is treating this beautiful woman like she's just anything. I was really like, hold on, Jay. Where is the effort? Where is the effort being made to actually take this woman out and just, and again, guys, we only get crumbs from this show, so I could be completely wrong, but the fact that it was mentioned by Joy that the romantic element, her mum felt he could be doing a bit more, I felt the same. I watched, and even when Tommy was asking these questions, Joy was responding, and I was like, Joy, wait, girl, let's hear his response. And we didn't. We did not get his response. So Tommy asked some questions, and Tommy said, listen, if, is this someone you'd consider dating? Joy answered, and she was like, yes, confident, yes. And again, I wondered if Jay was a little bit emotionally unavailable, because he really has played this way too smooth. And just been a little bit, I know he's private and they're cautious and they want to do their thing privately. And I respect that. And I like the gradual pacing with their relationship. It absolutely needs, once it comes out of the spotlight, you do need to kind of build a friendship and get to know each other. But Joy kept mentioning situationship. And I was just like, hold on, what situationship? Why do you want to start terming this as a situation? Relationship? Maybe you should start to not use that language, because it's so easy to end up in a quite messy situationship if you start giving it that label. So I always kind of think to myself, if a guy is serious about you, he's going to make that crystal clear. And I've done a video on that as well, so you can definitely find it on my channel. But honestly, Jay just didn't have the answers. There was a lot of hesitation, a lot of fumbling around. And at one point, I know Joy kind of encouraged him to just say, like, just tell them, like, stop just dragging it out. But he just really, even when they asked about dating, she was like, yes, we've gone on 1 or 2 dates. Whereas he actually said, yeah, we've gone out. So again, it's like, are you putting in any work? And guys, I could be completely wrong. Maybe Jay is putting in enough work, but I just felt like he's a little bit too laid back. And it made me feel again, like now that he's got Joy's full locked on attention, as Joy said, I'm not dating anyone else. This is the only guy. I would definitely date him. He knows he's bagged her in that way. I'm sure Joy knows she can just change her mind. But in that sense, he's got that confidence and comfortability that, yeah, she's there. And I just felt like the effort was lacking. I really did. I just didn't feel like actually he wasn't showing enough signs of like, yeah, I'm serious and I'm putting in the work to let her know this. I just felt like, Jay's had enough. All right, let me see what's in these comments, guys. Guys, thank you so much for posting all your comments below. I'll try and get through. Someone said, Sherna, I read my text earlier. Okay, I'll try and find it, Sandra. Let me see. Is it this one? I didn't like how funny, especially when he opened that big mouth. Thank you, Sandra. Someone else said, I agree. Blessed Empress said, I agree. Yeah, some people weren't for King K. Some were definitely for him. Let's say Joy will like Jay more. Okay, let's see. So Jordan says Jay wasn't invested in Joy. Yeah, and I think, you know what, Edwin, not that I was keen on Edwin and Joy. I think Edwin recognized that he has work to do. And I like that. Not that you can't do that work with a partner, but it was clear to see Edwin would have put a bit more work in. And Jay's just Jay's just moonwalking through with a fine smile. And sometimes you're just like, no, Jay, you got to do a bit more. This is not acceptable. So let's hope that Joy holds him accountable. Crystal G, let's see. Yes, Jay was lazy. He was consistent in not putting any effort in. I wonder why he got divorced and if it was due to this. Great comment. Crystal G, listen, I made some notes. Last season, we saw that their partners, do you remember the participants? If you've watched Ready to Love before, the previous season, the participants' exes, I think, came and got to meet some of their, interests and the people that they were connecting with. Now, I felt like this season, they should have done that because you will find out a lot more information about someone from their ex. There is, and I think last season we saw that those exes who came on, they were given some juicy info on this person. So I do feel like they should try and actually link in the exes next time if they do this again, because it really did help in last season give a bit more understanding of why some of their marriages failed, why some of their relationships seem to end up in this constant pattern. So that's my recommendation, Oprah, or whoever does this show. If you're listening, go back and get those exes, because that really does give a lot more insight. And it would have been interesting to see what Kalfani's exes had to say, because Kalfani very early on, guys, told us that he tends to not pick women. Women just come and pick him. And yeah, I got a lot to say on Kalfani, guys. I don't know. I might try and do some more videos on him, because Kalfani just needs to get a quick reckoning of this is not okay, and you need to go and do some work on yourself before you injure anyone else's heart. Yes. Okay. Let me see. They met the family. Yes, I agree completely. Not meeting the exes was a missed opportunity. Yes, I think they should have definitely done that. Sandra says, no, Sherna, that wasn't. Oh, it was something pertaining to Jay. Okay, I'll try and scroll as I'm talking, Sandra, just to see. But guys, what I wanted to say was, is there anyone else we wanted to touch on just before we go? Oh, guys, Raymond. Raymond. Just before we wrap it up, let me make sure I give Raymond and Chef Shay a shout out, because Raymond is 52 and I don't have his picture up today, guys, but it's really important that we touch on Raymond, because Raymond is 52 and he is a father of, I think, 5 children. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, fine. But this guy is still so hesitant about marriage. And I just wanted to make this point that if you are marriage minded as a woman or as a man, and you yourself definitely know that that is something you want in your future, I would say it's really important to ask those questions early, like, get their view on marriage. Is this something they're interested in? And if it's not, don't try to stay there and believe that you're going to change them. Because what Raymond showed is that even when Tommy questioned him this time, again, about the marriage and this comment around, would you get married? He literally was like, but what's the difference? It's just a piece of paper. It's just the legality of it. And for me, when someone is repeating the same thing, they have a solid belief. It's a core belief for them. And core beliefs take a hot minute to shift, okay? This is not stuff that just goes overnight. And it's not to say Raymond wouldn't change his mind, and is not to say Chef Shay and him couldn't see and experience marriage, but his quite resistant belief, let me just say his core beliefs seem to be that it's not that important. It doesn't make any difference. And that's fine for some people. And for him, it's fine. But if Shay, you are someone who does want marriage, I would say pay attention to this, because he's 52. So he's lived a long while. He's held some beliefs for a long while. And it's pretty hard to shift people's mindset. So even though he said he's open to marriage and yeah, he'll get the paper, I literally just did not feel very confident that that was going to occur. So again, if you are marriage minded and that's important to you, and you don't want to actually be in a situation where that isn't the end goal for you both, and someone is saying, I don't see any importance in it, pay attention to it, okay? All right. So guys, I think I've touched on as many of them as I wanted to touch on. Is there anyone else who you would like me to touch on? Let me just see if I can go through the comments very quickly. So Dennis, okay, let's see what Dennis said. Hello, Dennis. What is Edwin doing with Naya? For someone claiming they are working on themselves, it feels self-defeatist and destined to fail. Great point, Dennis. Honestly, when Naya mentioned, you know, the video clip, guys, and Naya, you know, in her private recording said to the producers or whoever, I didn't like anyone. I didn't like Edwin. I didn't like Chris. I didn't like any of the 10. Now, Tommy turns to Edwin and Tommy says, how does it feel, Edwin, to hear that, you know, there was no genuine interest in you? And Edwin could not hear this information. Like he literally, he told himself, no. In the moment, I know it was genuine. Whereas Naya was sitting there proudly like, she was not lying. In my opinion, Naya was telling the truth, and Naya did not try to back it up and say, no, I did mean this. Edwin literally allowed himself to convince himself that no, it is different with me. No, she there was a connect. I was like, this is what we should not do, guys. Okay, we don't do things like this. We live in reality and we tell ourselves the truth. And when somebody says those things, allow them to clarify it. Don't you try to justify and make sense of their own statements. She was right there. He could have asked her, is that correct? Is that true? Do you still stand by that statement? Something like that. So that was just my only little bit of advice. I wish Edwin the best. Honestly, my advice, Edwin, if you ever come across this video, is to really pay attention to the signs that you see in Naya and any other women, because these signs can also be signs that, you know, it might not be in your best interest just to overlook. If they can do it to one man, pretty much it can be done to you too. Okay, so guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm just going to quickly go through the comments. Let me see. I didn't really understand the hang up on marriage. It's complete. Yes. Yes. Shadia. I hope I'm saying it correctly. Yes, I also agree. Like, if you are not for marriage, that's fine. But I think if you are someone who is marriage minded and the other person is not, it's really important to have those discussions early, because you don't want to set yourself up for hoping that this person's going to change their mind on marriage down the long run, and then see that actually you're really left in a situation where they're not going to marry you. So that's my only point to it. Okay. I hope that explains it. Okay. Fantastic. All right, guys. So I'm going to hop off. It's been wonderful, as always, joining the live with you all today. I hope you've enjoyed these breakdowns. I will try and actually do a few more breakdowns on some other shows. We've got some new content dropping this week. We are going to be looking at some other shows. So please, please, please look out for it. And, you know, just stay blessed in these times. Look after yourselves. And of course, let's all just keep working towards building healthy relationships. All right, guys. Thank you and God bless. Bye.